I would like to start this segment off with a moment of mourning and with a few prayers for the MMA gods through the Church of Gaethje, for through him all violence is possible. Amen. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the fights that fell through or were cancelled for this fantastic card in the name of the upcoming Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson fight. The fight to end all fights. Know that the diminishment of this card only ensures the happening of the greatest fight ever. And even if this card is now a 7, when it used to be a solid 9 out of 10, I still think we should be happy with this. It's a fantastic card still. And even though it's not a stacked card anymore, I think we can all take solace knowing that a sacrifice like this must surely satiate the MMA gods and gets us closer and closer to that sweet nectar come April. In Gaethje's name, Amen. Robert Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier. Whittaker withdrew for undisclosed reasons. Darren Till versus Jared Cannonier. After much posturing on social media and fervent fan anticipation and visa issues from Darren Till, Jared Cannonier had to pull out with a torn pectoral muscle. Jeremy Stevens versus Calvin Kattar. A Stevens injury has forced this fight to be moved to a later bout in a later card. Derek Brunson versus Edmund Shabazian has also been rescheduled. And Edmund Shabazian's move up through the middleweight rankings will need to be postponed. Movsar Evloev versus Douglas Da Silva de Andrade. Not only did Andrade withdraw from the bout, but after they remade it with Jamal Emmers versus Movsar Evloev had a motorcycle crash and had to reschedule. He will be alright though, but not good enough to fight. So now it's going to be Giga Chikadze. And now we can move on. Now that we've had that solemn moment for the MMA gods to appreciate their benevolence and their cosmic sense of equity and fairness, we can now move on with the rest of the card. So first off, Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. That's going to be a good fight. Like, guaranteed this is a fantastic fight. I think the rest of the questions that we have about Israel Adesanya are going to be answered in this fight. Ergo, the grappling acumen, how he's going to do against someone with the durability to take his shots for most of the fight. I just can't wait to see this. Like, the long, rangy kickboxing, the style of Adesanya, the power, the rhythm of Romero, the explosions. Oh, is he going to be able to get to Adesanya with his slick defense and his maneuverability? Oh, it's just the clashing of these styles. The grappling of Yoel Romero, the wrestling. Will he be able to get Adesanya down? Has Adesanya shored up that part of his game since the last couple times we've seen him grappling? Has he bridged that gap? Will he be able to stave that off and work from the outside and work in the striking game against him? Because I don't think he has a lot of a chance in the grappling game, to be honest. I think it's about keeping him off and staying out from underneath Romero. And then if you can keep it striking, that's not a guaranteed either. Romero is one of the hardest people to put away or even hurt that I've ever seen fight, ever. A lot of his past opponents have described him as feeling like he's made of cement or concrete, which is insane. So Israel better pack a lunch. I doubt if we see this one finished by Israel Adesanya, this is going to be legend status. Otherwise, I think he's going to have to fight perfectly to a decision, and I mean perfectly. And this is going to answer all their questions. Is he a flash in the pan? Is he just a great talent, or does he have the possibility to be an all-time great? This is a real challenge for Israel Adesanya, and I can't wait to see it. I only wish Romero would have been able to fight younger with his physicality. But I don't think you'll see a lot of Romero's outdated, Romero's too old, all that, after this fight if Izzy wins. I think everyone recognizes how dangerous he is, how much of a stylistic foil he should be for Adesanya. But man, will Izzy's defense be able to read the explosiveness and the rhythm and the timing? Because that's what Romero's know. Oh man, it's just such a great fight. I can't really say much more than that. It's the unstoppable force versus the unhittable object or fighter, which is Israel Adesanya, and it's, man, you'd think he'd have a really tough time, but the way he went through Whittaker, who knows? Of course, Whittaker fought completely different from, when he fought Yoel Romero. I'll maintain that Whittaker fought very questionably, kind of dumb for the Israel Adesanya fight, but man, this is truly a test. I don't know who to pick. It's a pick'em, and it's going to be a great fight. Might even end up being one of the best fights of the year, honestly. Then next you have Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and I think this might be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to pick Weili Zhang in this fight over Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I think that Weili Zhang has the technical prowess to, sort of stay on par with Joanna in the kickboxing range, and then I think she just brings a dynamic power that very few women bring to that strawweight division. The way she blew through Jessica Andrade in the clinch, I just have a hard time not seeing her find her way to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and as we know, Joanna Jędrzejczyk does not have the strongest chin, especially at strawweight. She's been dropped by jabs multiple times before, and I just think Weili Zhang is going to be too much for her. I think she's going to be able to keep up technically, and I think every single one of her shots, whether it be a leg kick or a knee to the body or an elbow or a straight right hand, are just going to be carrying more velocity and more power. I think you're going to see a very well-matched fight for the first little while, and then eventually Joanna Jędrzejczyk is going to start showing the damage, and Weili Zhang is going to take over the fight, and it may even end in a TKO if she catches her correctly. But Weili Zhang is a very, very dangerous fighter. Her having to deal with the coronavirus in China and moving around camps to Singapore, to Bangkok, and all around these places, might have a negative effect in her ability to train and her ability to prepare. But if you're in that division, you've been preparing to fight Joanna Jędrzejczyk for a long time. She was the queen for so long. Coming up as an up-and-coming fighter, she was the person that you would have had your eyes on top of. I would be very surprised if Zhang's cornerman and team hasn't had most of Zhang's career to study and form a game plan around Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And I think technically Joanna Jędrzejczyk is going to be a level or two above Weili Zhang, but I think Weili Zhang is gonna more than make up for that in her athleticism and her physicality and the power she brings to her punches. I don't see this being a good night for Joanna, but at the same time, I'd love to see her regain that title. I'd absolutely love that. I love watching Joanna fight, and strawweight doesn't feel the same without her at the top of the division, to be honest. Wow, two great fights at the top of this card. And then you have Peniel Dariush versus Drakkar Klose. And that should be an interesting fight. Drakkar Klose usually doesn't put on the craziest showing. He's very technically sound, and he knows how to eke out a decision. Peniel Dariush has just been buzzing through these medium to lower level guys, though, that are sort of on their way into the rankings. Frank Camacho, Drew Dober, Thiago Moises, less so Thiago Moises, but still. And I don't see Drakkar getting it done. He hasn't shown me any specialization or any like dynamic parts of his game that are something that Peniel Dariush hasn't dealt with before, tenfold. I don't really see anything Drakkar Klose does. If he does win, it's going to be through incredible discipline and game planning. But I think Dariush takes it here, being the smarter, more skilled, more multifaceted fighter. He's more well-rounded, that's for sure. Who we got next? We got Magny versus Jingliang Li, and this is a great welterweight fight. Jingliang looked fantastic. He looked like a brand new fighter in his last fight against Easy Dos Santos. The swinging brawler was completely replaced by a technical power striker. And I think Magny, especially, he's been off for about 2 years. This is his first fight back since his loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio back in 2018. And I think he's gonna look rusty out there, and I think he's gonna have a lot of trouble with this new Li Jingliang. A lot of trouble. I think he's gonna get lit up. I think the heavy leg kicks from Li Jingliang, if he throws them, are going to really, really mess up Magny. Probably faster than he got messed up against Santiago Ponzinibbio. And I see Li Jingliang just buzzing through him. Honestly, I see it as an early TKO for the Leech. That should be a great fight, though. Next, we've got Cowboy Oliveira versus Max Griffin, and Cowboy Oliveira carries that huge power. He's coming off a loss, I believe, to, let's see here. He's coming off a loss to Mike Perry and Nicholas Dalby and Gunnar Nelson. So they've got him here against Max Griffin, who is going to stand and strike with him instead of take him down and try and choke him out. But I think Max Griffin is smart enough. He's got that good jab, and I think this fight's going to look a lot like his fight against Perry. I think he's going to out-technique him, circle around, and out-jab him, and Max Griffin's probably going to win a decision. I think he's going to be able to control that wildness, unless Cowboy Oliveira makes this a complete sprawling, twirling, whirling dervish slugfest. I don't really see him out-techniquing Max Griffin. But Griffin can get cracked. Griffin can absolutely get cracked. He's been hurt, and when he gets hurt, that usually affects him for the rest of the fight. He's never been finished in the UFC, but he can definitely get cracked, and that's what Alex Oliveira does, is he cracks you. So that should be a great fight. Sean O'Malley's making his comeback against Jose Quinonez. Long time coming after having troubles with USADA. The return of Sugar Sean O'Malley seems like he's been keeping around doing grappling matches and stuff like that. Grappling only matches, keeping busy. But Quinonez is easily the most legit fighter he's faced, easily. And this is really going to give us a gauge for how good O'Malley really is, because I know he injured himself. He was kind of styling on Sukumtov, and before that wasn't like this crazy blowout performance. He's been gone so long. How long has he been gone here? 2018. Again, he's been out for 2 years. Hasn't fought for 2 years. I think the Sean O'Malley we saw against Andrei Sukumtov 2 years ago, I think he probably would have to do a lot of improving to get the W over Jose Quinonez, and it's always tough to gauge how much better these guys are going to get in their off time. This really shouldn't be easy considering his layoff, and Quinonez is a quality opponent. I'm gonna expect Quinonez to get the win here, but I would be pleasantly surprised if O'Malley eked it out. But this will be another great fight. There's a reason this is headlining the prelims. Rodolfo Vieira versus Saparbek Safarov. Should be pretty easy to call, honestly, because nobody's stopping this Rodolfo Vieira BJJ. Incredible BJJ practitioner, bringing it to MMA. And Safarov's last loss was he was submitted by Tyson Pedro. So Vieira's going to twist him up like a pretzel, probably. So I've got Rodolfo Vieira in that one by submission. Then we got Mark O. Madsen from Switzerland, right? No, Norway. From Norway. My bad, I read that map wrong. And just the same way no one's stopping Rodolfo Vieira's BJJ, nobody's stopping Marco Madsen's grappling. These are going to be two grappling expositions back to back because Marco Madsen's probably going to smash Austin Hubbard. Austin Hubbard had a lot of trouble dealing with Davi Ramos and his grappling, and Marco Madsen's ground and pound is unreal, if you recall his last fight. So that's going to be probably a great matchup. Emily Whitmire's probably going to submit Polyana Viana. Giga Chikadze stepped in, great kickboxer. He's going to go against Jamal Emmers, who stepped in for Douglas Da Silva de Andrade. This fight was originally... What fight was this originally? This was originally Movsar Evloev versus Douglas Da Silva de Andrade. Andrade pulls out, and Jamal Emmers steps in, and then Evloev drops out because of his motorcycle crash, and then Giga Chikadze jumps in. Always going to love watching Giga Chikadze in the UFC. I loved watching him in Glory when he made the transition. I was super excited. I love watching that high acumen of kickboxing in the UFC. Jamal Emmers is really going to need to out-grapple him and rely on being a better MMA fighter than a better striker, and I think that's going to be hard because I looked back and his last loss was to Julian Erosa, and if you're losing to Julian Erosa, Giga Chikadze is probably going to knock you straight out. So I got Giga in that one, and then we got Deron Winn versus Gerald Mearshart, really giving people a treat for the Fight Pass prelims this week. Deron Winn... That's who I got, Deron Winn. I think he's going to be a better wrestler. I think Mearshart has trouble with really athletic guys with decent takedown defense. And I think Deron is going to probably roll him around quite a bit. I think Mearshart's going to have a lot of trouble. The only thing is if he's able to keep his distance and able to keep Deron Winn off of him. Other than that, I see him getting out-grappled. He needs to stay away. He needs to use his range, and he needs to use those kicks to the body, like the one he had against Eric Spicely there. I believe it was Eric Spicely. Let's see. Am I right? I know he beat Eric Spicely. Yeah, body kick, Eric Spicely. There I go. Okay. Well, that is the UFC 248 card. It's an absolute crackerjack of a card. It's a shell of what it used to be, but it's still going to be a great night of fights. And thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Throwin Bones MMA podcast. I'm hoping to start getting these out a little bit more regularly, but school and health is really kicking my butt. If you can share this around on social media to anyone who likes fighting and wants to hear this stuff. If you want to support it, subscribe to us on Instagram, join our Facebook group. Tell Facebook that the website isn't spam, let them know that because apparently they're blocking our articles right now as spam. I'd like to put out articles more regularly, but I can't. If you generally like my writing stuff on the website, I have a short story that I wrote is being published in Freefall magazine on April 30th. I will put maybe not link in this description, but upcoming the next couple of shows. I'll start linking where you can buy a copy of that magazine. It'll be about $12, and you're getting some of the best fiction and poetry that's published in Canada. Period. It's one of the most popular fiction magazines in Canada. I was lucky enough to get in with a short story that I wrote. So if you want to get that, you can support me and support fantastic literature still being published. Despite the day and age that we live in. You can get that there. It'll be about $12 and I think $20 if you want to get a full year subscription. You get 4 issues. It's published quarterly. And then on April 30th, there's going to be a launch party in Calgary. So if you live in Calgary and you like my stuff, you can come down to the Owl's Nest. It's the oldest independent bookshop in Calgary. On April 30th, we're doing a Freefall magazine launch party, and I'm going to be there reading my short story that is included in this season's volume. So I want to thank Freefall so much for giving me that opportunity. I want to thank you all for listening. If you want to see some other stuff that's not MMA related, you can go check that out. That'd be much appreciated. And I'll be here breaking down. I'll have to watch. I'm going to be watching Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. I'm going to be watching that the morning after on Sunday. So I got my girlfriend's birthday on Saturday, and I'll let you freaks know what happened. I'll let you know what I think. But very excited. It's going to be one of the best cards in a while, I think. So keep it sleazy and enjoy.